I lived in constant fear growing up because afraid of his retaliation, and anything that he would say or do could be nothing bad, like going to church, and still he would hit us. And we lived like that for many, many, many years. He drank until I actually got married. Not until I got married. This was when I was 27 years old. He drank.
Wow.
And the words too, as I wasn't worth nothing, I was no good, and that kind of thing, that putting me down. And I grew up with that perception, oh, I'm never gonna be much. And then that escalates to then as I got as my teenager years, I start dating and so forth. And now I can see, right? I can see that. But at the time I didn't see how my self-esteem was so low because of it, because my dad constantly saying I was nothing. And I can say these things without crying because I dealt with that, right? And so I got in relationships that wasn't good either. But this is like in my 19, 20 years old. I'm saying man, but they're also boy that would not treat me with respect or not value me, not see any value.
Respect you. Sure.
Right. And I always thought that is as good as going to get, right? Because behind my mind, it's like, well, I was always treated like crap. So that is the best I might be able to get or be. And that is was for a long time until I met my ex-husband, and that is when I moved to the United States. And in my relationship with my dad was never that great, but I never thought that that would affect me as much until I got here. And then I was alone because I didn't have any friends because I moved from a different country. I had to start over. Right.
Right.
And I was depressed. And I couldn't figure out why. I had a calm life. I wasn't in that chaos anymore because my ex-husband was pretty chill. And so until I went to see a psychologist, and it was the first thing he asked, were you abused when you were a child? Were your father an alcoholic? Or, and as, I did not see that coming. I did not see that that past would affect me. So I seek treatment and I talk it through, but it wasn't the same. And I still carry myself to become violent, meaning in a sense of, I didn't hit my husband or anything, but I was just verbally rough. And because that's all I knew. Right.
Yep.
And that kind of brought a little bit of, problems where until at the church I go now, we had this program called Celebrate Recovery, which I joined to help, mostly to help other people, but I ended up being helped because it was, oh, okay, I understand what alcoholism is, because it's sort of like, it is a 12 steps, but with Christ Center. So with that, I learned how to forgive my father, because not until, and it was hard. It wasn't easy. A lot of journaling happened. I journal and I pour my heart into the journals, and also with my sponsor, which I talk a lot, which was my accountability person there. And that was very helpful. And then until I learned to let it go, understand that who I am or who I became is not the end. I have capability of learning and modifying my behavior and creating new habits for myself, and shift that negativity and that darkness, that dark cloud that was on me, the hurt that I carry. I did not have to carry that anymore, mainly because in my religion, Christ had taken it all. I don't have to carry that. And that is not my problem, it's my father's problem. He is the one that had the issue, not me. I was just the recipient. But over the time, I absorbed that as if that was my issue. Maybe I'm not that good, and this is why he drinks. So I would take the blame. He drinks because of me. He drinks or he hit me because of me. And it was. And then I learned it's not. And I learned to forgive him. I really did. And I can talk about scenarios because it's just in my brain, because I remember hurtful things that he did, but I don't talk about it with wishing him anything bad. I actually wish him he find peace.
I've heard a lot of times it takes several times to really leave the situation. For me, I don't know if I just endured so much throughout those 2 years that was once I decided and it was out what was going on, I couldn't go back. The violence continued.
Even after you left?
Yes. In a sense that when he would see me out on the street, he would try to get me to get back in the vehicle. Or, once I was at a nightclub and he went in there, he knew I was there. I don't know how, but he went in there with a gun and he dragged me out. I was able to get into a friend's vehicle and I went back home. He really respected my parents' house. So as soon as I was inside that house, that was that. He would leave. He wasn't looking for an altercation with my father more than anything. But that night, I left the house because I thought it was safe. Okay, I can leave again. And he chased me in his vehicle. He pointed a gun at me. It got to a point that there was helicopters because I was on the phone with 911 on a freeway. He was chasing me. The helicopters were on top of me. It was bad.
How did you get all of that to stop?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think I just stood my ground and I really, really made it seem like I wasn't afraid. And I would call the cops every time I would see him. I think he just grew tired. And perhaps he found someone else to
channel the abuse and his energy and effort.
Maybe. Yeah.
Wow. How long have you been holding on to this? Yet 20 years, but how many people know that these things happen to you aside from your family?
The people that are really close to me know that that relationship was violent. It's very interesting because I don't go into details very often. My son, I don't think he's ever heard of any details of anything that happened. It's a very complex situation because the one reason I stayed with him for as long as I did was because of the children. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, my son had 3 siblings and I still kept in contact with him because of the kids. So once I established my boundaries, whatever those were at that time, he respected them. He never again addressed me in that manner, or he never did anything to make me feel unsafe the way that he used to. He was in a relationship at that point, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But there was still, till this point, there's still communication with that individual.
Oh, wow. Is it for the purpose of the kids? Because your son should be in his mid-20s right now, right?
He actually turns 23 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you keep in communication with him still?
For a long time, there was no communication at all, but he was in prison for 11 years, I'm going to say. At the beginning, it was more for my son, just to have some type of a relationship with him.
Sure.
That stopped for a while, for several years. And it started again when his eldest sibling passed away. And recently a bit more because his other 2 siblings passed away as well.
I'm so sorry, Laura.
So at this point is a bit of the communication, I think mostly is to try to make sure that the relationship that my son has with him is supervised, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
There's other things that play a role. I know it's weird to say this, but I feel bad for him.